This is Connie Saunders with Foreclosure Freedom Network. Is to take a few moments here to outline the Home Affordability and Stability Plan itself, which is the father of our home affordable programs that we're seeing today, such as the Home Affordable Refinance Program, the Home Affordable Modification Program, and the Home Affordable Foreclosure Alternatives Program, Foreclosure Assistance Program. Now, here we are. Now, beginning in March 4th of 2009, the Homeowner Affordability and Stability Plan was released along with the lender guidelines. So let's take a look at this in detail. 1. Loans must be originated on or before January 1st, 2009. 2. First lien loans on owner-occupied properties with unpaid principal. So in other words, it's not the second mortgage. It qualifies, and you have to own the property, so it has to be homeowner lived-in property. 3. The balance will go up to $729,000 or higher if you have 2 or more units, up to 4 units, and it has to be owner-occupied. 4. All borrowers must fully document income, including most recent pay stubs, tax return, and a signed affidavit of financial hardship. So that it's not too difficult. 5. Property owner occupancy must be verified through credit report or other documentation. 6. Incentives are now offered to lenders and servicers to modify at-risk borrowers who haven't missed payments but risk default. In other words, it is imminent. It took them quite a while before they would actually consider those, but modifications could start from March 2009 through to the end of 2012, but they could only be modified one time with that program. So if you already got it modified with that program once, it's very, very difficult to get a second look. 7. Net present value test, or NPV, needs to be required to be used on each loan that's at risk or is in imminent default or 60 days plus delinquent. Now this would compare the net present value of cash flows for the modification as opposed to what it would be without the modification, and whatever's the best for the investor would be considered then the go point on whether or not they would accept that. If the test is positive, meaning that the net present value of the expected cash flow is greater in the modification scenario, then the servicer must modify unless fraud was or is a factor on the part of the homeowner or the servicer contract prohibits it. So that is the case with certain structured securities or pools of loans that don't allow terms to modify. In 2008, 54% of all loan modifications failed because they weren't sustainable. It's stated clearly in the stability plan to be mandatory that the lenders evaluate the sustainability of the loan modifications that they propose on behalf of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. 8. Fewer than 10% of U.S. homeowners are eligible for government-backed loan modification have received one, according to the Arizona Republic on May 16th of 2010. So I know I said earlier, and I've gotten other data on how many people got loan modifications that could, but here's another source that is saying fewer than 10% have gotten it. From what you can see, number 9, the sooner is better than later on getting your loan modification application in, obviously. The lenders will follow a specified sequence of steps in order to reduce the monthly payment to no more than or less than 31% of your gross income. So they will start out by lowering the interest rate down, and they just do it in increments down to 2%. And what they're trying to get is the principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and homeowners association fees, if there are any, down to the 31%. So they basically need to modify the terms, and starting with the interest rate in order to see what they're going to qualify for. So a lot of lenders don't want to go down to the bottom end of the rung on that, which is the floor rate is 2%. So, and that is the first thing the servicer is supposed to do when they're modifying with this home affordable. And honestly, I'll be very honest, I really haven't seen that. A lot of these come back with 3%, and they've done later portions of the waterfall, but most of these are amalgamations of this. But the interest rate is supposed to go down to a floor of 2%. Then, if necessary, the term of the loan is supposed to be extended out to 40 years. And that sometimes happens, and it sometimes doesn't. But I have indeed seen that happen. And then the next step of the waterfall, after they've extended the term and lowered the interest rate, is they're supposed to actually reduce principal balance until they can actually get this working. Forbear principal or forgive it. Now, interestingly, one of the things that they don't really say in this modification plan, nobody really addresses this, but you've got, and I talked about this in another video, but you've got your debt to income, and this is truly the right place to interject some handlings on the debt to income ratio, on the debt to income that's out of whack, because when you have your credit card debt and your auto loans and your other all of your unsecured debt is very, very high, getting that down can a lot of times get a person more or less qualified. But regardless, at this stage, they're supposed to defray at least this principal to the end, and they may do a balloon note or whatever. So once all of those have been figured out, if it's still higher than the 31%, they are supposed to forbear the principal. And but truly, I don't know any more than I've never heard of anybody more than 22 people that have ever gotten their principal forgiven. So I think that most of it is probably being put off until later. So once the mortgage gets paid off, this then will go into effect as a second, almost as a future loan that you're signing. So be careful when you're signing your loan modification documents to read them carefully and make sure that you know and understand what it is that brought your payments down. And the lender will share the expenses with the government on bringing those expenses down from 38% to 31%. But outside of that, is higher than 38%, then lenders are expected to handle that by forgiveness or, again, modifying the back-end debt-to-income ratio factors so that you can get some of that credit card debt and other debt